Mrs. Quartermain, we've heard a great deal today about your husband's relationship with Susan Moore. Did you know about this liaison?
I not only knew about it, I caused it.
How?
My indiscretions drove my husband to another woman.
Didn't that bother you?
Yes, it did at first. But in the final analysis, no. It didn't at all.
Well, why not?
Because my husband and I have known all along. We would always be together. We would never separate. It was common knowledge. Knowledge that Susan Moore should have had.
Would you describe Susan Moore as a victim?
I would say Susan Moore was in the wrong place at the right time. She was there before Alan and I even realized that we were going to be together for the rest of our lives, that we could not exist without each other, and that certainly nothing would ever cause our marriage to end.
But you know that now, both of you.
Absolutely.
Are others aware of this dedication now that you two have for each other?
Oh, yes, I think our friends have been. As a matter of fact, I think our friends have been more aware of it than even we were. I could say our friends, meaning family, our colleagues in the hospital. Sadly enough, the only person who was not aware of it was Susan Moore. I do feel sorry for her. Unfortunately, she deluded herself into believing that Alan and I did not love each other. And that was very wrong.
Thank you, Mrs. Quartermain. No further questions.
Mr. Baldwin?
Thank you, Your Honor. Dr. Quartermain, in spite of your touching words of love for your husband, you did in fact file for divorce against him.
You should know, Mr. Baldwin, you were my attorney. You did everything conceivable to persuade me to go through with it, even when I wasn't sure I even wanted to.
Yet you did drop the divorce action. Why?
You know,
because you were afraid you were going to lose too much money to Susan Moore?
You know better than that, Mr. Baldwin. You dropped my case.
Just answer my question.
I intend to, Mr. Baldwin. You dropped my case when I told you I did not want a sensational trial. You informed me that you would not be making enough money. Therefore, you pulled out.
I must ask you again. Just answer the question.
I believe I am. When I told you I did not want Alan subjected to a sensational trial, you told me to go find myself another lawyer.
No further questions.
Does the defendant have anything further?
No, Your Honor. The defense is content to rest.
In that case, you are excused, Mrs. Quartermain. Neither party to this action having anything further, I will review the matter in my chambers and return with my decision. This court is now in recess.
All rise.
Why did you let her say all those things?
Just shut up, Susan.
Hey, Doc Rick! Boy, am I ever glad you're here.
Well, I'm ever glad that I'm here, too. Honorable Judge Desmond Taylor presiding.
Please be seated. The court notes that both the plaintiff and defendant are present, represented by counsel. Are there any motions before I read my decision? Mr. Baldwin?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Baldwin?
No, Your Honor.
So be it. First, as to the infant child, Jason, whose welfare I consider paramount in this matter. I have taken cognizance of the fact that the child is, in fact, a Quartermain by admission of his father, and said father, Alan Quartermain, has previously offered to establish a trust fund sufficient to raise the child as befits his father's station. Now, in lieu of the trust, I direct that Alan Quartermain establish a cash settlement for the infant in the amount of $1 million. The infant's mother will administer the money until the child reaches age 21. Now, it's the mother's responsibility to choose a designee to ensure the money will be administered if the mother shall be deceased before the child reaches age 21. Next, as to Miss Moore and her claim for damages. Now, it's my opinion that the promises made to her by the defendant, Alan Quartermain, were no more binding than those given in the course of ordinary courtship. Further, I am persuaded that inasmuch as Alan Quartermain was in fact a married man when he made his promises, and the plaintiff, Susan Moore, knew him to be a married man, a reasonable person might have foreseen the consequences of her act. However, While I find she acted without reasonable consideration of those consequences, nevertheless, I direct that Alan Quartermain pay her a sum for rehabilitation and the establishment of a new life and career. That sum will be $150,000. Finally, I direct that Alan Quartermain defray the cost of Scott Baldwin's legal fees, that cost to be not in excess of $50,000. This case is closed.
All rise.
150,000, that's nothing. I wanted $1 million.
Let's just get out of here.
Did you hear me, Scotty? That's peanuts.
Susan, Scotty's right. Let's just leave.
Excuse me, I'll be right with you.
Sorry, Scotty.
I don't suggest that you go out and celebrate because I have every intention of appealing this case.
If you so decide.
The case is not over yet.
If that's smart and art, don't you think you need one more toothpaste?
Damn.
I can't believe it. I am telling you, I just can't believe it.
About the settlement, I thought it was rather nice myself.
So did I. But what I'm really talking about is your testimony. I mean, what you did for me.
I was rather good, wasn't I?
You were magnificent. Let me ask you something.
Well, the mood I'm in right now, you could ask me just about anything. What?
What you said on the stand, did you mean it?
Alan, I was under oath. You think I would get up there and perjure myself? Of course I meant what I said.
You know, we really ought to celebrate. Shall I get some champagne?
Oh, I think I'm just going to go on upstairs. It's been a long day. Rather tiring day.
Monica? You were beautiful.
You know something? When we work together, we're a pretty good team.
The best. It's Alan.
Just a minute. The door's not locked. Can you help me with this?
Yeah.
Thank you.